Okay.
Good morning, everyone. So greetings to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure to grace all of your presence for today's webinar. On behalf of Seamedu, I welcome our speaker, Ms. Varsha Shelar, who is an experienced educational professional, academic administration and consultant. She has an experience of over 30 years in the design industry as a teacher, academic head, and a great mentor. We are grateful to her for accepting our invitation. Today's topic is typography, which sets the introduction about the typography and fonts. I request Ms. Varsha ma'am to take it forward. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me, Team Seamedu. I'm glad to be here. And I'll take you through the basics of typography, and I hope you enjoy the session. So shall we start?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So hello, everybody. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Hi. So today, sorry
to cut in. Students, you can unmute yourself and let the session be interactive. Okay, you can mute yourself whenever it is required, and please respond to ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So is everybody able to hear me, and is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So where we are going to look at, I'm sure all of you have heard the word typography, even though you're students of say game design or VFX. I'm sure all of you have heard the word typography, right? You may not have gone through what is typography, but I'm sure you are aware of the term typography. So what is this term typography? It's basically a combination of two words, the Greek word for typos and graphene. Typos is impression or a form, and graphene is to write. So it's basically written impression. So all of us are surrounded by words, isn't it? Spoken words, written words. Words are everywhere in our life, an important form of communication. Okay, it's become all the more important now because in form of visual communication, because we are dealing so much with visual communication these days, you know, especially your generation. Okay, so let's look at what exactly is typography. Okay, I have told you the meaning of the word, but what is typography? What are the finer nuances of typography is what we are going to look at today. Okay, I'm not going to take you through the details of rules and all that, you know, that we'll do at a later stage.
Sorry, ma'am, you are on mute, I think.
I received the message the host has muted you. So anyway, can you hear me now?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am,
So,
make it full screen once.
F5.
Ma'am, go to slideshow. Left.
1 second.
Slideshow.
Yeah.
Click on that. Ma'am, there's a custom slideshow.
Ma'am, just click on the full screen. Hello.
1 second.
Yeah, Shadow.
So just it will be okay. Just make it full screen.
1 second. 1 second.
Ma'am, that maximize view you can.
Maximize, yeah.
I think I've lost it.
Oh.
One second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So, well, we are going to, I want you to understand where it all began. Okay. Are you with me? Are you all with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you must have heard also about cave paintings probably in history of art. Even in school, you must have come across the term cave paintings, right? So the prehistoric man, they were nomadic people. So they never had permanent dwelling or homes, and they moved from one place to another place with their cattle or animals that they had, the herds they had, and so they basically lived in caves. So their way of communicating with each other or with other groups of nomads was basically carving or painting on the walls of the caves. So that is considered to be the first form of visual communication, where they didn't really use words, but it was mostly in the form of drawings. Okay, so there have been the prehistoric people like the Upper Paleolithic era. They're what we call the Stone Age and Paleolithic, Neolithic era. So their cave paintings have been found in parts of Spain, Altamira caves, and Lascaux in France. Okay, so that is considered to be the first form of visual communication or their pictorial language. Okay. Later on, if you are aware of the ancient civilizations, the Sumerians developed a kind of a script, okay, to communicate with each other and to other civilizations also. But those days there was no paper, there was no pen, there was no printing. So how did they develop this script, and how were they communicating with each other? So they had these tools with which they used to carve mostly on stone tablets. Okay. So the script had a particular look because of the constraints that they had. See, the letters have still not been formed. Language in terms of alphabets is still not being formed. Okay. This is mostly pictorial interpretation of words, right? Later on, the Egyptians developed something called a hieroglyphics, because ancient civilizations were also progressing. They were trading with each other, okay, across the seas. So the need for communication was important and, absolutely necessary. So the Egyptians, after Sumerians developed their script, which is called cuneiform, the Egyptians came up with their own script called hieroglyphs. Okay. Later on, the Greeks developed alphabet based on the script developed by Phoenicians. And eventually the Roman civilization, Romans took it forward and developed a kind of script that we pretty much follow today. Okay. So the Phoenicians are credited with creating the first alphabet per se. So this alphabet word is a combination of two Greek letters called alpha and beta. Okay. Then, as I told you, the Romans developed it further, and what we see as the Roman letters, the capitals and all that, they developed it after that. Okay. So that is basically the foundation of the written language. So what I'm showing you now on the left is the Sumerian cuneiform. See, on the top, you can see the stone tablet, and you will notice that the script is very, like basically straight lines and triangular forms because of the tools that they were using. You hardly see any circular forms in this, isn't it? Now you can see the letters A, B, C under that cuneiform script, but that was interpreted much later, recently, by archaeologists and language experts. On the right, what you see is the Egyptian hieroglyphs, which is a pictorial language. Now, this was also very prevalent during the pharaohs and the time the pyramids were built and all that. You'll see it on all Egyptian temples, walls, pyramids, inside of pyramids, tombs, everywhere. But this was also not interpreted Nobody understood, nobody knew what it means till recently. Okay, so now at the bottom, what you can see is how eventually the archaeologists have interpreted it, what the each symbol or the picture means. Okay, later on the left hand side, you see the Greek script, on the right top also, and at the bottom what you see is the Roman alphabets developed from this Greek alphabets. Okay, so you see the Roman alphabets also, they are carved. This is a part of the Trojan column. You probably have heard of Trojan column, but if you haven't heard, then you should check it out, because this is considered to be the base of what the written language or alphabets that we follow. Here also you'll see the strokes are all, basically the thick and thin strokes are due to the chisel that they have used, or the tools that they have used to carve on that Trojan column. Okay, so this is the foundation or the beginning of the written word. All right. So why is typography important? All of you will be told that, as you go along in your course, your professors will probably tell you about, the typography needs to improve or whatever. So why is it so important? Because see, in visual communication, whether you are game designers or your visual effects artists, animators, graphic designers, fashion designers, the written word has become very important. You have to make presentations, you have to design titles, you have to design your basic communication. You may design movie titles. Okay, you work with television channels, and you may have to, as I said, the written message is everywhere. It's a very important part of our life. So choosing the correct typeface, correct font has become very important in terms of communicating effectively. So if visual communication is a puzzle made up of, say, color, text, images, then typography is a very, very important, vital part of that puzzle. Okay, so it's the art and technique of arranging typefaces, letters, whether you're designing a poster, page in a book, or the app in the screen, or the movie titles, or a simple presentation, whatever it is. Typography definitely enhances the look and feel of that content and creates a special experience. It is experiential. It is no longer just a way of sort of putting something out there, to communicate a message, right? So now let us look at what is typography versus font. So what's the difference? Typeface is, in fact, it takes some time to understand this, it's a bit confusing. So typeface is a collection of fonts, while a font is a specific style or weight within the typeface family. Okay, so all of you have heard of Helvetica. So Helvetica is a typeface, but variations of that Helvetica typeface, that is Helvetica bold or Helvetica regular, Helvetica thin, is a part of the typeface family. Okay, is that clear till now? Am I clear till now? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here you see what I mean. Helvetica is a typeface. Okay. And when we say fonts, choose your right font, meaning you are choosing Helvetica, but what is appropriate for your particular application? So here are the variations, Helvetica, there'll be Helvetica regular, there'll be Helvetica oblique, Helvetica light, Helvetica bold, so Helvetica bold oblique. So you have to understand this and make a right choice for your particular application. Okay, whatever you are designing. So just like colors also have certain classification. You may have studied color theory. So colors have, say, warm colors, cool colors, primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors, So similarly, type also has certain classification. Okay, so we'll be looking at the main 5 categories of typefaces. So that's the serif, sans-serif, script, and decorative or display. Okay, so these are the main 5 broad categories of type classification. Okay, so here on the right, you can see on top is the serif font, then sans-serif, okay, then script and display type, okay, or the decorative types. Okay, so these are the 4-5 main categories of fonts. Okay, so first, well, let's look at what is a serif font. Most commonly used, we subconsciously are aware of what is a serif font. We probably look at it every day, but you may not really know it as serif typefaces. Now, this serif word has come from the Dutch word schrift. Okay, that means the marks of a pen. Okay, so why is it called, it derived from that? See, olden days, as I told you, there was no printing and there were no computers. So everything, the books and Bibles and everything was basically written by hand with calligraphic tools, calligraphic pens, or the reeds, what they call, it's like a thin bamboo. They used to cut at an angle and they used to dip it in the ink well or the ink bottle, and they used to write. Okay, so the earlier Bibles and books were basically written like that. So that is where the word comes from, serif. Serif is a small line or stroke attached to the bottom, the straight vertical stroke. So they are often referred to as the feet shown at the bottom of the letters. Okay. Now here also, not all serifs are same. They are not similar. There will be a slight variation in the serifs, we'll be looking at it, what different kinds of serifs are here. So I'll take you through that, but this is basically one of the most important classified serif category. So you see here this F. So what you see at the bottom, that extended stroke, is what is called serif. Is it clear? What is
Yes,
serif?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
you can see it in the word also, the word serif,
Ma'am, so even the
SERIF.
opposite, so even the opposite side is like a serif. I mean, the whole thing. Yeah.
Opposite as in?
I wanted to ask you, like, so it's at the bottom, right? So on the left side as well is considered a serif.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
The entire thing at the bottom, what they call the feet, sitting on the baseline, is a serif.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So the entire thing is a serif, left and right. Okay.
Okay,
Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
But depending on the alphabet, some alphabets may have it only on one side, depending on the alphabet. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So yeah, we'll get there slowly. Yeah. So yes, sorry. So what is the speciality or characteristic of these serif typefaces? These are considered to be more formal and traditional because this is, as I showed you on the Trojan column, one of the first examples of, formal written carved alphabets. Okay, so obviously they have a kind of a traditional look and feel. They are mostly used for editorials. Editorials as in newspapers, magazines, books. Because see, there was a reason behind it. Serif fonts, as I explained to you further, whenever you're holding something close to you and reading at leisure, okay, that means not glancing in a hurry. You are taking time to read it. So it's easier on the eye, So that is why serif fonts are mostly used for these kind of applications. Okay. Newspapers, you should take a look at, say, Times of India, see what font typeface they are using. font they are using. Okay, so it works very well. Serif fonts work very well for newspapers, editorials, books, where there's a lot of text, but you're reading that text at your own pace and time. You're not reading it in a hurry. Okay, so it's easier on the eye. Okay. So one of the most well-known serif typefaces you must have encountered on your computer. Can you tell me what the name is? What can be the name of that computer? I mean that font.
Times Roman.
Times New Roman. Okay.
New Roman.
That's why that T and N and okay, R. Okay, Times New Roman. See, you use these every day without realizing the importance and the science behind it, isn't it? All of you use it every day. All of you use most of the fonts that I will be talking about now without realizing how it works, how they should be used. Okay, because you have so much available now, at so on your fingertips, we use it very casually without realizing the nuances of those typefaces. So some of the important typefaces, earlier typeface, serif typefaces is Garamond, whatever, Georgia, Times New Roman, Bodoni, Caslon, Baskerville. Okay, so these are some of the well-known serif typefaces. See, they at a glance they may look similar, but they are not. Okay, they will have certain slight variations. Okay, so you may not consciously be aware of it now, but as you go along and complete your course and join the industry, you will become more sensitized towards it. Okay, so let's look at what are the different types. So among serifs also there are different classifications. There's old style serif, like I have mentioned some of the names here. There's transitional serifs, like we mentioned, Times New Roman, Baskerville and all. Neoclassical and Didon, like Didot, Marconi, Bodoni. Slab serifs, Clarendon serifs, and Glyphic serifs. Okay, so the old style serifs, obviously you know why they are called old style serifs. The way they originated, the earliest serif fonts, these inspired by handwritten serif letters written by pens or reed. Transitional serif comes in between, the name suggests transitional. So it's a transition between the old style and the neoclassical. So it's in between. Okay. So these neoclassical typefaces or fonts are they are getting more and more sophisticated, So the neoclassical fonts like D dot and all are very, they look very sophisticated. They have a very classy look, and they are mostly used by, if you have seen Harper's Bazaar magazine, the masthead is using D dot. Even some of the very well-known fashion houses in Italy and France, they have changed many fashion houses have redesigned their branding and identity, logos, and some of them are using D dot. Okay, so it gives a very classy, sophisticated look. Slab serifs were designed mostly, see, as the communication is communication in terms of visual communication is evolving, printing is evolving. Okay, Gutenberg has come up with his printing press, so he's he has designed what we call the movable type. He was a goldsmith, and so he is the one who came up with that movable metal type. Okay, so technology is evolving, printing is evolving, communication is evolving. So there is and the trade is also evolving. So there is a need for, better communication, advertising, um, advertising your services, your products, posters are being printed. So they needed something like slab serif fonts, which are bold, and easily noticeable on things like posters, okay, on newspaper ads. So that is how this typography is also evolving. See, all communication design, all design is always influenced by what is happening around in the world, in the society. As the society evolves, as the technology evolves, depending on the function, design industry has also evolved. Okay, it is all depends on what is happening and the needs of the consumers and the human beings. Okay. Then there is Clarendon serifs and Glyphic serifs, right? So these are the different types of serifs. Okay. You may not need to use all the serifs in your work, serif styles or all the typefaces or the different classifications that I'm mentioning. But it is very important to know about these finer aspects as designers if you want to be good designers. Okay. So old style serifs. See, you'll notice that, this particular style as it shows in the image, they have a slight slant on the serif. So this is obviously influenced by, as I was telling you, handwritten text. Okay, handwritten text by the pen or the reed. So that is why you see the way, this, if you are doing calligraphy, if any students, they know anything about calligraphy, they will understand what I'm saying, that this is very influenced by the calligraphic style. Okay, this form of serif typefaces. Then, as I was telling you, the transitional serifs. So this is like, the Times New Roman, Baskerville, all these are considered to be the transitional serif typefaces. So you see, slowly it is getting more finer. It is getting to be more easy on the eye, more pleasing to the eye. Okay, but see this Baskerville actually, when he designed, see, most of the typefaces are named by the creator of that particular typeface. Okay, so Bodoni was a person who designed the typeface. Baskerville was a person who designed the typeface. Okay, so when this Baskerville designed the typeface, this is slightly, you see, it is more black in the sense that it was considered to be a little heavier than, some of the other serif fonts that were used that time. And a lot of people resented this. They didn't like this typeface at all. And, it took people a lot of time to get used to this, accepting this particular typeface designed by Baskerville. Okay, so as I was telling you, modern serifs, as I was telling you about this, the dot and Bodoni, don't they look more sophisticated? Yes. Are you all with me?
Yes, ma'am.
If you see it is very, it's different from what we have seen earlier. Okay, so the vertical stroke and the horizontal stroke, see the difference between the thin and thick stroke. It's definitely looking more modern, more classy. Yeah. So as I was telling you, a lot of, lifestyle products, fashion houses are using these type of fonts for their branding, okay, and communication. Slab serif. Now, as the name suggests, you see the difference between serif. Now, see here. See here, the serif is almost like a thin line. Are you noticing the difference? See this Baskerville. The serifs are all different. They are all, sort of slowly evolving, changing depending on the application and what they are being used for, right? So what is giving this a sophisticated look is the thin strokes, the way the visible difference between the thin and thick stroke is giving it a very classy look. Yeah. As I was telling you, slab serifs were used mostly for posters and print ads, where they wanted people to notice the content and be attracted to it, right? So you see, here the serifs are completely different. Now, some of the slab serif typefaces, if you see, they're almost like serifs are almost like bricks sitting on at the base of the letter. Okay. And you should, when you, after this class, I think after this session, you should actually look at some of the typefaces, and study them. So you will understand what different kinds of impact they have on visual communication. Now, glyphic or the tapered serif typefaces, you see here, they are not definite serifs in this form, in this typeface. And I used to use it a lot in college when I was in college, it's a very versatile typeface, Optima. It sort of, sits on the fence between the serif and sans-serif fonts. And it's very versatile. You can use it for all different kinds of applications. Looks very classy and clean. Yeah. So you see the edges of the letter slightly, there is a slight, what should I say? It's not exactly a serif, but it broadens towards the end of the stroke. Yeah. So very interesting typeface. Okay. So we are done with serif. Any questions so far? Or is it clear what is a serif font, serif typefaces?
It's clear, ma'am.
Yeah. So sans-serif typefaces. Now this word terminology comes from the French word sans, means without, okay, without serif. Now here also there's an interesting story of how these sans-serif typefaces were developed. I don't know whether you have heard of Rosetta Stone. Okay, it's a very, if you have studied art history or just history in general, Rosetta Stone is considered to be one of the most important examples of ancient communication. Okay, so as I told you, those days in the ancient civilizations, mostly content was carved on stones. It was not, there was no paper. So this Rosetta Stone was a decree carved on a part of a stone by the Egyptian king Ptolemy, right? And after Napoleon the Great, Emperor of France, he invaded Egypt, and some of his soldiers found this stone lying around in the city of Rosetta. Okay, that is why it is called Rosetta Stone. Now, why is this interesting and important? Is this Rosetta Stone is one of the first examples where the archaeologists realized the content or the message or the decree was carved in 3 different languages. Okay, so the same message is communicated or carved in Egyptian hieroglyphs, that is their pictorial language. Then there is something called a demotic language, okay, in the middle. And at the bottom, they have carved the message in ancient Greek. Now, this ancient Greek script is what inspired the sans-serif typefaces. Okay, and this Rosetta Stone, actually the ancient Greek, because the message is the same written in 3 different scripts, eventually the archaeologists were able to decipher the meaning of those hieroglyphs. Till then, nobody knew what the hieroglyphs mean, what those pictograms mean, what is the communication or what is the message. But this Rosetta Stone really helped archaeologists and researchers, interpret the Egyptian pictorial language. Okay, so that was the inspiration for this sans-serif typefaces. So these sans-serif are definitely more modern than the serif typefaces, right? And they were created in the late 18th century, whereas the serif fonts or typefaces are designed much more earlier, okay, in the mostly early 17th century. So now is this clear? This is on the left is serif typeface, on the right is a sans-serif typeface. So you see these serifs are missing in this. This is a clean, simple T. There is a thick stroke and there is a thin stroke, but there are no serifs or these feet or all these arms, at the end of the vertical and horizontal stroke. Okay. So very clearly tells you what is the difference between serif and sans-serif typefaces. So in this also there are 4 basic classification of sans-serif typefaces. That is grotesque, neo-grotesque, neo is new grotesque, humanist, and geometric. Now I'm sure you are quite familiar with some of these like Tahoma, Verdana, Calibri, Helvetica, right? Because I'm sure you use them, you have them on your computer, laptops anyways, yeah? So you are aware of what they are, but not probably, as sans-serif classified fonts, yeah? So as I told you, sans-serif, that means no serifs on the typeface. So let's look at these different classifications. So grotesque is considered to be the earliest sans-serif typefaces. Yeah. So you can see, but even in these sans-serif typefaces, there is slight variation, though you may not really notice it now at a glance, but there is always a slight difference. Now see from this to this Helvetica, new grotesque typefaces. Arial, Helvetica, these are much more cleaner, more versatile. Helvetica is used almost everywhere, correct? Helvetica is considered to be the most revolutionary typeface of 20th century, by the way, because it is so easy to use, easy on the eye, and so versatile. Rahul sir, if at all you can show the students documentary on Helvetica sometime, that will be really nice.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So humanist typefaces. I think there is a mistake here. Okay, so Gill Sans, Frutiger, Tahoma, Verdana are considered to be the humanist typefaces. Okay, so you can check them out on your own. What these, as I told you, like Gill Sans also. Now these were named again by the designers who actually design these typefaces, right? So geometric sans-serif is another classification now, as the name suggests here. So see here, if you see the O's, O and the A, it's very, very simple, and like O is a perfect circle. G, if completed, will be a perfect circle. Okay. So it's basically, easy to sort of, I'm sure it would have been, inspired by geometry. So easy to design also, easy on the eye also. Very simple. You look at the difference between the A of this and A of this. Okay. See the A here in Helvetica and see the A here in Futura. Notice the difference? Okay, so whenever you are using typefaces for a particular application, we always tend to look at important alphabets in that particular application, so you get a feeling of how it is going to look. Now it's become very easy that you go to the font and you type the word and then it pops up automatically. You don't really have to put in much effort. Okay, but always when you're making a decision, try to understand the nuances, and try to understand particular alphabets, how they look, how they are, whether they go well with the content, whatever you are trying to design. Okay, so that should determine your decision. Script typefaces, as you all know, it's like more inspired by the handwritten letter form. Now here you see on the left, there are two classifications, formal and casual. Now, if you see on the left, you will notice that it definitely looks more formal. And you might have noticed also, that mostly it is used for wedding communication, invitations, wedding invitations, where there is a formal, some formal event happening, right? So you will notice that these kind of formal script typefaces are used. On the right is what we call the casual script typefaces. Okay, so as the name suggests, it is used for casual communication, but yet where there is a personal touch required. Okay, so this helps. These kind of script typefaces help when you want to make the communication of content a little personal. Okay. Then display, we come to display typefaces. As the name suggests, this is mostly used for display purpose. Now, what is display purpose? Wherever there is a bold lettering required, whenever you want to make a certain impact. Okay, so if you notice that movie posters, hoardings, wherever banners, wherever you want to sort of shout a bit in terms of visual communication, or textual communication. You want to make an impact, certain kind of impact, or create a certain kind of look and feel and mood, so these display fonts are used. Okay, and they work very well in bold, bigger point sizes. So on the right, you see all this. I have given some examples. You must have noticed now there is something called Harry Potter, but it is Harry Potter, what kind of typeface they have used on, to create the word Harry Potter on their books and the movie posters. You must have noticed, isn't it? So these are some examples of
Distant Galaxy is of Star Wars?
Sorry?
Distant Galaxy is of Star Wars?
I think so, it is.
Yeah.
It seems familiar.
Yeah, so mostly you will notice that, movie posters and all that, I mean, these kind of things, even book covers, sometimes they use these kind of display fonts, okay, where it creates a certain effect, or what we call the fancy fonts, so you should look at it on your own also, do a little bit of research, so you will understand, okay. So, but eventually, anyway, we'll come to that. Now we've gone through type classification, different kinds of typefaces. So what did we look at? Serif, sans-serif, script, display, right? So when you design something and when you're using typography, you will be choosing from one of these 4 or 5 classification, that I have just shared with you. Okay, as you go along, as you complete your course, you will understand what to use where. It may not just happen overnight after my lecture. Okay, Varsha ma'am has told us about it, now we know everything about typography. No, it takes a long time to understand, and the finer aspects of typography, what to use where. It comes with practice, and you have to train your eye. You have to train your eye. You have to look at all the kinds of visual communication. When you look at now movie posters or books or magazines or newspapers or even something on your computer or apps, try to look at typography with a finer eye. What makes it visually appealing? If you like something, why you like it? If you don't like something, why you don't like it? Okay. What makes it visually appealing? What makes the message come across to you in an effective manner? Type plays a very, very important role, just as color and layout plays a very important role. Okay. So now we'll be looking at what is this anatomy of a typeface. What is anatomy? What is your understanding? What is anatomy? What does the word mean? Do you do anatomical drawings in art?
Can be defined as a skeleton for a particular subject.
It's not exactly skeleton, you're quite close. It's bodily structure. Okay. So we are talking about, like, say, human anatomy. What does that mean? That means bodily structure. Okay. So similarly, type also has a structure. Typefaces also have structure. Okay. So what are these different parts of typeface? So let me take you through this. You see, there is a, this is a capital letter, no? The first T. Okay. So this T basically, now the vertical, this is called the cap height, capital letter height, right? And then there is a lowercase letters also. So this is called the cap height, the entire height of the capital letter. Then there is baseline. So you'll notice all the small letters, like, you know, without ascenders and descenders, they are sitting on this baseline, right? Sometimes the O and the round letters will be slightly lower to balance it, but that depends on the typeface. But basically, these are the general guidelines. Okay. So what is a stem? As the image shows you, the vertical stroke. Then here, these lower strokes of Y, P, you know, is called Y. Again here, these are descenders. Okay. And as you see, the when the stroke goes up, it is called the ascender. It's just a simple terminology, ascending and descending. Okay, something that goes up, ascender, something that comes down is a descender. You know, all the small letters are lowercase characters. Okay, this is a bowl of the P, whereas this part of O is called the counter, right? The extended stroke of G is the ear, but the extended stroke of R is a terminal. It's very interesting, and you may not have to, you know, know this by heart, but if you take typography seriously, this will help you, okay, to choose your typeface for whatever you're designing. So this is basically the anatomy of the typeface, the brackets, the lower strokes, you know, right? So we'll be looking at some of the finer things here. Is the slide clear to everybody? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you see, same thing, ascender, descender, aperture, ear, crossbar, you know, terminal, then loop of the G. Now you'll notice that typefaces, no, as I was telling you, the A's may be different. Similarly, the G's also are quite different from each other. Okay. You know, some G's are like this and some will be very simple. So you should look at, I mean, now you should consciously look at all different kinds of typefaces and try to understand what is what. Yeah, it will make it very, I mean, easier for you also to choose your typefaces when you're using type for anything. Okay. Same going forward. What is the spur, link, spine of S? See, for that S, it may not change the spine, you know, the spine. Usually S And S is considered to be one of the most difficult letters to draw by typographers. Okay, it's considered to be one of the most difficult letters to draw. Okay, so here again it talks about what is a tail for R, and filial and shoulder, stem for V, right? So it's nice to know these things, even if you may not consciously use it. So when you design, as student designers, you design something. Your professors or lecturers may tell you from time to time that, when you're designing a layout or some using typefaces for any kind of communication. Sometimes I use the terminology and tell the students that, your layout is looking too heavy on top, change the typeface. The typeface that you have used is too heavy. What does that mean? All typefaces have a certain weight. Does not mean that we are weighing them in a weighing scale, and saying this is heavy, this is light. No. It's the visual weight of the typeface. Okay, so that is why if you notice that there will be something called light, regular, medium, bold. Okay, so if you're using bold typefaces somewhere where it is not required and there is too much of clutter in the layout and all, your lecturer may tell you that your choice of fonts is like heavy, the layout is looking heavy. Does not mean it is weighing heavily, but you need to change the typeface. Okay, so this is what it means by weights and styles. You see the top is Benton Gothic thin. The second is Benton Gothic light. Now, depending on the typeface, they may use the terminology. I could even say this second one could be regular. Okay, since there is no regular version. Benton Gothic medium and bold. Okay. Now, if you look at this serif font, Caslon regular and the Gothic Benton Gothic medium have similar weight, isn't it? Visually, it has a similar weight, but it is classified slightly differently. Then Caslon semi-bold and Caslon bold. So as I was telling you, depending on the typeface family, the terminology may differ, right? But if you're designing, say, something for a perfume ad or, a romantic film, title for a romantic film, will you use a bold font or will you use something like a regular or thin?
Thin font.
Thin font, right? Something like maybe that is looking more elegant, no? Not very heavy, not a bold one, correct? But for, say, Spider-Man or what is that now? Matrix. What kind of typeface will you choose? Thin, regular, bold, what?
Ma'am, wouldn't it depend on how the poster or the thing is made?
Of course. Yes. But what I'm saying, general, I mean, just generally we are discussing. Would you choose something which is very thin or would you choose
No,
something
ma'am.
that is, yeah. So that's what I mean. So if you're doing something for a perfume, then you will probably, or a fashion or a lifestyle product, you'll probably use something like a thin or regular typeface. Where you're designing something for a consumer durable, or say designing a book on technology, you'll probably use something um, like a regular semi-bold, bold kind of, so depends on the application. You have to choose your typefaces based on the application. Okay. Now, I always tell my students that just like we have personalities, every human being has a certain personality and certain characteristics. All of us are different, isn't it? Right? All of us exude a different personality, no? So
Yes, ma'am.
similarly, I always tell my students that typefaces also have a personality. You know what they communicate when you use them. So if you look at a particular typeface and if you associate it with a human being or a persona, what kind of persona that typeface will have? Whether that typeface, sometimes when it gets difficult for students to choose, I always tell them that think of, you know, what you want to communicate, how you want to communicate, who's your target audience. If you are choosing a particular typeface, what does that typeface look like? What does the typeface, what kind of personality does the typeface have? Does the typeface have a personality of Shah Rukh Khan? Or does the typeface have a personality of Salman Khan? Okay. If you try to think of it as a, you know, give it a persona, it becomes even more easier to make the decision, right? So they create a certain mood. They have personalities. They create different moods. Typefaces can be formal, informal, jovial, modern, classic, angry, happy. You know, they communicate all different kinds of things. So let's see how. So as I told you, Times New Roman is a formal, traditional typeface. Okay, Fontaine is slightly informal. You can use it for informal communication. Gaudi again is old style. It's a classic kind of. Baskerville also is a kind of a classic typeface. Verdana is modern. Benton Gothic is light. Okay. Chunk 5 is dramatic. Now see the serif here. This is a slab serif. Example of slab serif. As I was telling you, some of the slab serif typefaces literally have like serifs like that look like bricks. So this is one of them. Okay. Helvetica, as I told you, is neutral. You can use it for any application. It's a very versatile font. Okay. Now, see, I have shared here just this one word, hello. Now you get the drift, what I'm trying to tell you. How different typefaces can create different moods. Yeah. Now this just one word, hello. So many different ways you can say hello and it communicates something completely different. The first hello is, oh, jovial, I'm in a happy mood. Hello, how are you? You know, I'm here, kind of thing. Okay. The one on top is a very formal hello. Okay. You're going for a formal meeting, you're going for a formal interview, that kind of a hello. Okay. The bottom hello is also a little sophisticated formal hello. The one colorful hello is again a party type of hello, isn't it? So you get the drift, how different typefaces can create different moods and communicate things differently, right? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say?
How would you
Sorry?
interpret hellos? Like, how did you interpret as which hellos saying what? Are there any set of rules that we should follow?
No, that is what I'm trying to tell you. See the typefaces, you know, the way the typefaces. Now this hello at the bottom, no, with thinner D dot kind of a typeface. It's a little formal, correct? Now, whereas this hello on top, you see the strokes of the letters, you know.
Ma'am, so
It gives
basically it's
you,
like the design, right? It's like the design of the hello and the way they've written it.
yeah, yes, why not also? But the thing is, even the typefaces are making a difference, no?
Yeah, ma'am.
See the first hello, the strokes, you know how it is. It's not, you know, it's different. It's casual, isn't it? Yeah. Are you getting it?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is like, you know, it's like what you're trying to communicate, depending on that, your typeface will create that kind of a mood or impression. All right. Now see here also, again, I'm showing you some more examples. Times New Roman, formal, then this is informal, light, big mouth, see all what is dramatic. Now the show card Gothic is a dramatic typeface. Even what you say, the Harry Potter title is a dramatic typeface, isn't it? It creates a certain kind of mood, no? And it has become ingrained. You can't imagine that Harry Potter written differently and registering in your mind, isn't it? So that's what happens, they have personality, and the typefaces have personality, and they create a certain mood. Okay. So again, on the right, I have tried to show you some examples of, the fancy and the open and the playful and the strong. Okay. So as I told you, immediately you may not be able to use it appropriately. But if you make a conscious effort, and if you try to remember what I have told you today, and look at type and typography with an eye of a designer, you will slowly, it will come to you, and slowly it will fall into place. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to train your eye. Okay. So I'm going to take you through something called what we call expressive typography. What does that mean? Meaning just the type or the way you use that particular typeface can actually express the meaning of the word. So we always initially, when we are teaching typography and when the students are quite new to it, we take them through several exercises of expressive typography. Okay, so they learn to use typefaces, they learn to choose typefaces appropriately for the content. Okay, so as I was telling you, it plays a very important role in visual communication. All the typefaces have potential to express something or the other, create a mood depending on what kind of personality that particular typeface has. And they can actually communicate a concept or an idea without even sometimes the help of a visual. Okay, so we'll see how we can achieve it. Now see on the left, you see the word quiet, and at the bottom also the word quiet. Now which version actually, according to you, communicates the word meaning quiet? Which one, the top one or the bottom?
Top one.
The top one.
The bottom one.
The bottom one says quiet. Do you feel quiet when you look at it?
No, ma'am, I meant the top one.
Huh.
It was by mistake.
So that's what I mean. You see the word quiet. The top one is really quiet. Okay. It's so subtle. Okay. Whereas at the bottom, the word is shouting. How can it be quiet? It's not going to be quiet. It's screaming aloud. No? With the kind of strokes that there are and all that. Yeah, it's a dramatic typeface. On the right, again, you see the word scary. So which one would really scare you?
Ma'am, but actually quiet also looks scary, ma'am. I don't know why.
Of course it looks scary. It's
Yeah,
not quiet at all. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You see how the choice of typefaces completely change the meaning of the word, isn't it? So on the right, you see scary, and the bottom, you see scary. Which will scare anybody?
the one at the bottom.
Bottom one.
The top one, if you look at it, scary. Oh God, you're going to laugh, and what, boss? What is this? Yeah, who's going to get scared
It's
with
more like for kids movies or something like that. Kids horror
Correct.
movie.
Even the kids won't get scared by that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's expressive typography. I'll show you some more examples, some nice examples. See the word bounce. There are millions of ways you can write this word bounce just by using typefaces, It's just the way how you put it together. You don't have to show anybody bouncing, isn't it? The word itself is bouncing. the way you have placed it. Correct? So that is what we call expressive typography. Now here broken, the word broken. Okay. See how many different ways. I have shown you just 2 ways, but you can do it so many different ways, you know, to interpret the word meaning by using time. Crash. See, so many different ways you can do crash. Right? Now, do you find it interesting or is it boring? Boring?
It's interesting.
It's interesting, ma'am.
So no, you can say boring if you feel bored, but the thing is, I feel that, you know, you should, these kind of things are nice to, as designers, to experiment with, you know, because this is what actually, what we say, effective communication, effective visual communication. See, there are no images used to communicate the word crash, but you see the way how it has been interpreted by just using time. I think there was a movie also called Crash, isn't it? Have you all seen the movie Crash?
Is it Keanu Reeves movie?
Sorry?
Is it Keanu Reeves movie Crash?
Maybe.
No, there was this actress called Thandie Newton. And
No,
it's a
I don't
very,
know.
if you haven't seen it, you must watch it. Why I'm going back to it, you know, is like you should look at movie titles also as interesting examples of typography. Now, as VFX students and all know, you can even experiment with something called kinetic typography. Okay, like movies like Wimbledon, Crash, you know, like even movies like, what is that, Pink Panther series. You see how the titles are designed, how they use type, how they use typefaces, how that kinetic typography works and creates a certain effect. You know, lot of movie titles are extremely interesting and they stay with you. You should actually look at the movie titles of the movie Wimbledon. Very interesting. Okay, so check it out. And make a note. You should have a scrapbook. Actually, all of you should maintain a scrapbook where you find something interesting in terms of color, typography, VFX effects, or whatever. You should write it down, you know, because it always helps whenever you're designing something, you know, it can be a source of inspiration. Okay, so now here, now see, this is simple words: balance, how they have shown, you know, everything going out of balance. Waves, the way the word is placed, the way the font is chosen. Killed, fat. So, you know, hide. There are no gimmicks here. There are no visuals. Just simple typography, communicating the meaning of the words, expressing the meaning of the words, the way they have used it. Okay, that is clever visual communication. Clever typography, examples of clever typography. Okay, you'll find hundreds of examples like this online. You can check it out whenever you're free. Just type in expressive typography examples and you will find some very, very interesting stuff. Okay, now see here, tsunami. There's no actual wave, nothing, just that S communicating the meaning of the word tsunami. Melt, the word is actually melting. Nice, no? The way they have put it together.
The melt looks good.
Yeah, really looks good. So, now I will, this is what one of my most favorite type designers has designed. He's no longer alive, called Herb Lubalin. Okay, he was a very famous graphic designer and a type designer. See how beautifully it communicates the meaning of the word. Marriage, mother, and families. Isn't it beautiful? Don't like it?
It is beautiful, but
Really
I
beautiful.
mean, families wouldn't serve it as kind of a spelling error, or maybe
Is it?
because it looked like so there are three eyes in the family. That's why.
Is it? See, it's creativity, right? Yeah. It communicates the message, mother, father, child. You know, the mother, the child in the womb of the mother, marriage, two people.
Yeah, it looks nice.
It is nice. Yeah. Okay. So Herb Lubalin, write the name down. HERB Lubalin, LUBALIN. Check out his work. Okay.
Can you type his name in the chat so I can?
Yeah, I'll do it later. Okay.
Okay.
Herb Lubalin, Milton Glaser. You know, you should check out some of their work. And I will also share later on, I will probably share some names of famous typographers. You should check out their work also. Okay. Now I want to, before I wind up, I want to show this video. I think I may need little help from Rahul sir. Are you there?
Yeah, ma'am.
Let's see. If it doesn't work, then you help me.
Sure.
Okay. So I have told you about basic things about typography. Okay. I'm not going to take you through the rules of typography yet, but some of the terms you may have heard, kerning and tracking and things like that. Now, when you choose you may say, how do we choose typefaces? How many? The basic rule of thumb is don't use too many typefaces in one piece of design work or communication. Okay, maximum two. If you have two, maximum three, otherwise two. You could now in that you could use a little bit of variation. You don't have to, you could use thin and bold. You could use probably a serif and sans-serif. Create a combination which is visually appealing, but not more than that. Worst comes to worst, you can use three, but the rule of thumb is minimize it to two typefaces or two fonts in a piece of work. Kerning, tracking is all part of good typography. Because what happens is now whenever you are designing something, most of you all get into the habit of just, typing something and not really what earlier when we were in college, we didn't have computers. So we had to do everything by hand. And we had something called a typolog book. Typolog had basic fonts. Then later on, something called type letra set, which was like a dictionary of typefaces, was available, but it was not available in India. So we had to depend on cousins, relatives, and all coming from UK to ask them to get that letra set. Letra set used to be one fat dictionary of typefaces. So we had to choose whatever typeface we wanted to use. Then there were certain typesetters who had computers in the 80s, 70s, and early 80s. So we had to go to the typesetter. We had to tell him, okay, this is the matter to be typeset. He would set it. He would take a printout and give it to us as students. Then we had to come back and then we had to cut and paste it by hand using rubber solution in our layouts. Okay. God forbid if there was a mistake. We couldn't just control delete and, redo it. We had to actually cut out the lines or the letters by hand, use tweezers and redo it. It was a Herculean task. Okay. But that's how it was. Sorry.
So difficult.
Very, very difficult. And if it was, most of the layouts we had to do by hand because there were no computers. So that is why even today, I can do a 6-point serif lettering with a brush and paint. I can still do it freehand, and Rahul sir knows it. Okay. It's because we had to do everything by hand. We had to look at the typeface, whatever we wanted to do, and we had to render it by hand, either with a black pen in the rough layouts, and the final layouts we had to use the brush and the black color, poster color or black ink. So that is why 5 years of studying typography and 5 years of studying design, we can do these things in our sleep also. You know, we generally won't go wrong in choosing and setting our type content. Okay. But that is why, because now today what happens is everything is so easily undoable and redoable. So most of the students are not taking typography seriously, unfortunately. But if you want to be good designers, if you want to stand out with your work, then these are very important things to know. Choice of color, choice of typefaces, the way you put your layout together, your frames, the films that you shoot, composition. These things are very, very important. Okay. So now let me take you through this. I hope it works.
Typography. It's
1
everywhere
second.
in the books we read, on the websites we visit,
Is it audible?
even in everyday life.
No, ma'am.
Bumpers.
1 second. Or Rahul sir, do you want to play it?
Yeah, ma'am. I'll
Okay.
No, I think you can increase the volume from the YouTube thing, the video itself.
Should I try?
Yeah, ma'am. Just try increase the volume.
And product packaging.
Yeah.
Simply put, typography is the style or appearance of text. It can also refer to the art of working with text, something you probably do all the time if you create documents or other projects for work, school, or yourself. Typography can be an intimidating subject, but it doesn't have to be. You only need to know a little to make a big difference in the stuff you do every day. So let's get started. First, some common types of fonts and what you need to know about them. Serif fonts have little strokes called serifs attached to the main part of the letter. Because of their classic look, they're a good choice for more traditional projects. They're also common in print publications, like magazines and newspapers. Sans-Serif fonts don't have that extra stroke, hence the name, which is French for without serif. This style is considered more clean and modern than serif fonts. Also, it tends to be easier to read on computer screens, including smartphones and tablets. Display fonts come in many different styles, like script, black letter, all caps, and just plain fancy. Because of their decorative nature, display fonts are best for small amounts of text. For example, titles and headers, and more graphic-heavy designs. In a way, fonts have their own language. They all have something to say beyond the words on the page. They can come across as casual or neutral, exotic or graphic. That's why it's important to think about your message and pick a font that fits. Some fonts come with extra baggage, like Comic Sans, Curls, Papyrus, and many more. There's nothing particularly wrong with these fonts. They just have a certain reputation for being outdated and overused. If you find yourself tempted by them, think twice and consider using something else. There are many fonts with a similar look and feel that are less likely to detract from your message. When deciding which fonts to use, less is more. It's best to limit yourself to 1 or 2 per project. If you need more contrast, try repeating one of your fonts in a different size, weight, or style. This trick is practically foolproof for creating interesting combinations that work. You've probably heard the saying, opposites attract. Well, the same is true for fonts. Don't be afraid to combine font styles that are different but complementary, like sans-serif with serif, short with tall, or decorative with simple. This can be challenging at first, but don't despair. Look to other designs for inspiration, and soon you'll get the hang of it. Maybe you've heard terms like kerning, leading, tracking, and hierarchy. For those with more experience, these concepts are essential for creating professional-looking designs. As a beginner, you don't need to know everything about these terms, just enough to inform your work and help you talk about design with more confidence. Hierarchy is used to guide the reader's eye to whatever is most important. In other words, it shows them where to begin and where to go next, using different levels of emphasis. Establishing hierarchy is simple. Just decide which elements you want the reader to notice first, then make them stand out. High-level items are usually larger, bolder, or different in some way. Remember to keep it simple and stick to just a few complementary styles. Leading is the space between lines of text, also known as line spacing. If you're not sure how much line spacing to use, don't fret. The default is usually fine. The goal is to make your text as comfortable to read as possible. Too much or too little spacing can make things unpleasant for the reader. Tracking is the overall space between characters, sometimes called character spacing. Most programs let you condense or expand this depending on your needs. In some designs, you might adjust your tracking to create a certain artistic effect. It can also help you fix fonts that are poorly spaced to begin with. Kerning is the space between specific characters. Unlike tracking, it varies over the course of the word because each letter fits together differently. Some fonts have what we call bad kerning, making certain letters look improperly spaced. If a font you're using has bad kerning, it's best to cut your losses and choose something else. Well-crafted text can mean the difference between an ordinary project and an extraordinary project, even if you're just getting started with design. All it takes is an interest in typography, and you'll start to notice more, see more, and be able to do more in your own work. We hope you enjoyed learning the basics of typography. Check out the rest of our design topics.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So I think that video sort of summarized whatever we have discussed today. And I hope you remember to use it in your work going forward. I'm going to leave you with a small exercise, so which you can do and share with your professors. Okay, you have to use that expressive typography. I showed you some examples, right? So I want you to experiment expressing the word meanings of these words that I have mentioned. Can you make a note of these words? Yeah. Can you see the words?
Noted.
Yeah, deep, bubbles, fluid, rough, tall, and reflection. Don't copy something from the internet. Try to do your own work and try to, don't use any image or any graphic. It just has to be type. Okay. The type that you use or the typography, you can use existing fonts or you can do your own version of it. But it has to express the meaning of that particular word using just type. And you and you do it only in black and white. Okay, just use black ink or black pen to do it, right?
Wait, you should do it on pen and paper.
Yeah, I mean, not now, but in your class. Okay.
What about digital? No digital.
Do it by hand if you can first, then you can digitize it.
Okay, because like doing it digitally is fun for me. That's why.
You can do it. That depends on your professors. You can talk to them, and but initial sketches would help if you can do some sketches and then do your final in digital version. That would help, isn't it?
Okay.
You should always follow. I don't know whether you have been taught the design process, but following the design process helps rather than just going to the computer and doing one version of it. Experimenting and exploring options always gives you a better final output. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's my perspective. All right, so any questions? Thank you very much for being with me. I hope it helps you going forward. Do you have any questions?
Ma'am.
Yes, Viraj. Guys, you have any questions, anything to ask? Viraj, you were saying something? Yeah, Athav.
Yeah, ma'am. How has your experience been in this typography field? And what would you suggest to a fellow person who might be interested in it?
Okay. See, actually, as I'm telling you, we have studied typography from foundation to I have done 5 years. I have done this for 5 years in college. Okay, which is almost like master's level. Our course was 5 years. So we have gone through, learning typography for so many years in college. Okay. So which actually taught us so many things to look at type very differently. And as I told you that today's generation doesn't take it very seriously, but type is a very, very important aspect of any kind of design or visual communication, whether you are whatever designer, interior designer, fashion designer, graphic designer, VFX designer, animator, whatever. Okay, words, expressing words in a effective manner to communicate the message effectively is very important aspect. Now that is what I'm trying to tell you, that you all of you are in digital space, digital domain, social media. Okay, just imagine the typography and the type that content that you use on your apps and your phone and your laptop. If it is not user friendly, if it is not readable, if it is not easy on the eye, what would happen? Let me tell you about, I'm sure you all of you know who's Steve Jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, who's Steve Jobs?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody knows.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now all of you use, some of you at least may be using all Apple gadgets, Apple iPhones.
No, ma'am.
No? Okay.
No,
Some of you may be using whatever, So Steve Jobs, he actually sort of revolutionized the typography that you use on your computer. How so? When he was in college, university, he realized that, a certain communication, their posters and all used to be very, very attractive and very well put together. So he was very intrigued by that, and he actually tried to find out, and then he realized those posters were designed by students of the calligraphy class in the university. So he got very interested in it. He actually attended that calligraphy class, and then he realized the importance of, the written word communicating the message effectively. And that is when he actually got certain typefaces designed to use on the Apple computers. Okay, that is how important typography is, right? So if you are seriously interested in typography, you should consciously pay attention to using it, consciously look at the things that appeal to you, the typography that appeals to you, make a note of it, why it appeals to you, find out what typefaces have been used, critically analyze it. Okay, then slowly your sensibility towards typography will improve. Okay. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now all of you should actually look at type consciously whenever you use anything. It could be just a simple email. It could be just a simple, presentation that you're putting together in your class. What kind of typefaces you're using? How are you making your presentation effective? Type can make the whole difference to it. Okay. Don't just download stuff and use templates. Make it personal. Make your written communication personal. Bring your personality into it. Make it stand out from the rest of the crowd. By using color very consciously, by using typefaces consciously, composition. Remember the principles of design. You should not forget the principles of design ever. You must always consciously use it. Critically analyze all your work. Take a step back and say, okay, is this correct? Have I used the correct typeface? Have I used the correct colors? Is my design looking balanced? Is it visually appealing? Is it communicating the message effectively to the target audience? It's very important to consciously apply all this, whatever you're learning. Okay? Yeah? Okay. Anything more?
Guys, anyone is having any other questions? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So thanks for being there, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're most welcome. And if you wish to talk to me on any particular topic, I can be approached. I think you can communicate with Rahul.
Ma'am, so for that thing which you told to do, the words, like, you gave us a few words to, write about. So I can use calligraphy also, right? In it?
Of course.
Because I know calligraphy. My
Excellent.
mom, she's an artist, so she taught me.
Excellent. Calligraphy is the basis of this typography, basically.
Okay.
So, yeah. And if you want to follow any calligraphers, I know a couple of them who are very, very good. So
Okay.
I can put you on to them. You can follow them on Insta and all that, So
okay. I'm sure when we can type it in the chat, I will just take a screenshot and
I will tell you the name. There's somebody called Sudeep Gandhi, who's a very good friend of mine. Sudeep Gandhi.
What's the spelling?
Sudeep Gandhi.
Okay.
Gandhi as in Gandhiji. Gandhi.
Okay.
Achyut Pallav. ATCHUT. Achyut.
I'm your friend. Sudeep Gandhi is famous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see his name on Google right now.
Yeah. Achyut Pallav. PALAV.
Okay.
You can follow, you can check out their work. Achyut Pallav was my classmate. He's a very well-known calligrapher. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right.
Yeah, ma'am. It is very wonderful experience. So on behalf of Seamedu and student, I may like to express sincere thanks to Varsha ma'am and for giving an excellent coverage on typography. I hope students have enjoyed the session as we have too. So it's our pleasure to have such a wonderful talent to share her thoughts and enlighten us with her wisdom knowledge. Thank you, ma'am, again for
Thank you
giving
so
us your
much.
precious time and blessed with your knowledge and sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me with you all, and thank you Arindam sir, Chandan sir, and your entire team. I may have forgotten some names, but please, to the entire team, thank you very much, and it was a pleasure being with you all here. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome. Okay, so shall we wind up?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.